Well, good morning. Thank you again for that great introduction, and we apologize that we had to shorten your break, but as she mentioned, you'll get a much larger break shortly, so definitely bear with us. But as I do want to start off with making that note, it was exactly the 2019 convening that we came to and left with such a great opportunity to work and collaborate. And as Michael mentioned, the theme around collaborating, it's been very important for this project from day one. And it started in 2018 around conversations and needs. So I will start with moving over to our next slide here, which is our introductions. And just as we mentioned this morning, I am Dr. Chandler LaBeouf. I serve as the Vice Chancellor of Institutional Advancement and Strategic Initiatives with Fletcher. I also have the honor and privilege serving as the Executive Director of the Foundation. I started at Fletcher in 2018. However, most of my career has been within community and technical colleges here in Louisiana. And Fletcher is one of the 12 community and technical colleges in Louisiana. If you want to introduce yourself.
So good morning. My name is Dr. Danielle Voglin. I am the Dean of Nursing and Allied Health at Fletcher since January of 2020. Welcome aboard to your new role, Danielle. I'm COVID. So I have been a nurse for 23 years, and of course when I started here, some of this was already being thought of, so I joined in the middle of this, and I'm happy for this collaboration.
Yeah, so as Danielle mentioned, she started in 2020, but was a huge an instrument for us to be able to move forward with this project. But a little bit about Fletcher. How many of you have never heard of Fletcher Technical Community College? So many in the room. And what we serve the Bayou region, so mostly our students come from Lafourche, Terrebonne, and Assumption Parish. However, we also work with St. James, St. John, St. Charles, and St. Mary. We are 71 years old this summer, so we've started out as Louisiana Technical College, many other VOTEC institutions back in the day, and then became Fletcher Technical Community College in the later years. We serve over 5,000 students, so we issue anything from industry-based certifications, credentials, all the way up to the associate's degree level. So we are a comprehensive community college. We have over 25 training programs, about 135 faculty and staff, and our operating budget for the college is $11 million. So while we look at ourselves as mighty and strong, that budget to do the work that we do is really not that much when you look at it in the grand scheme. So our foundation plays a major role in helping support some of our efforts. And most of our budget is tuition and fee supported. So we're about 75% tuition and fee, the remaining from the state. And so a little bit about our foundation. It was created in 2009. It's fairly young, but again, it focuses heavily on endowments, grants, scholarships, projects, as such as we're talking about today. We have over 150 recognized business industry partners, and just alone, we've been able to do a host of growth with the foundation just in partner of collaboration. So for example, in 2018, when I came into the institution, we only had about $600,000 in endowments. So we've been able to move that needle. And the endowments, most of those in that movement have been around nursing and allied health. So to be able to support student and scholarships, as well as there's a lot of capital projects and federal grants that we'll talk about that played an instrumental part in the greater picture of this partnership. So Danielle, if you want to talk a little bit about the nursing program.
So I'll tell you a little bit about our nursing programs that we have down at Fletcher. We have 3 different nursing programs. We have an Associate of Science in Nursing registered nursing program. We have a licensed practical nursing program. And just in 2020, we started this LPN to RN program, which is a bridge program for individuals that are already in the community working as LPNs. We made it very convenient for them to come back to school, do didactic work online, come to class once a week, and we do clinicals on weekends for them because we knew we couldn't pull them out of the workforce to go back to school. We also have a nursing assistant program that we tend to use as a stepping stone into our other programs. We're very proud of all of our students and our instructors. They have maintained a very good NCLEX pass rate, that's the state board pass rate, since 2013. These individuals persevered through COVID-19. They never missed a beat, still beat national averages on some national averages on the state exam, on the NCLEX exam, and always surpassed what the board mandates for pass rates. Right now, we currently have about 80-ish students in these programs. We have about 10 full-time faculty. We do have some adjunct faculty. All of our programs are accredited by ASIN, which is the Accreditation Commission for Education in Nursing. And I'm going to boast that our practical nursing program is the only program accredited by ASIN in the state of Louisiana, the only practical nursing program. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah, and so one of the things that our healthcare providers called upon us early on and again in COVID was the opportunity that we bring our students to the floor. And so we'll talk a little bit about that here in terms of the nursing shortage and the conversations around the timeline. But in 2018, the chancellor at Fletcher had been in her position for about 2 years. And so the first year she spent time fixing internal structure. And then in year 2, she started to branch out into the community and start to learn who our business and industry partners were. And so I joined her and we visited a host of multiple healthcare partners, those being Terrebonne General Health System, Ochsner Health in the Bayou region, and Terrebonne General Health System, Thibodaux Regional Health System, Cardiovascular Institute, and a host of many, many partners. But when the chancellor hosted her annual breakfast in terms of business industry partners, she was approached by Thibodaux Regional that day after and said, we need to talk, we have a shortage, we have needs, and we need bedside nurses, and we think you can produce them. And so we are producing them. Where is the gap? What is the shortage? So we spent some time with Thibodaux Regional to understand that shortage on their side and began to look internally at some of the data, which I'll share. But in the meantime, it was when we came here around conversations of the gap for us wasn't about having the students ready to be in the nursing program. The gap was the funding to be able to expand the nursing program in needs of faculty. So I went to Danielle's team and I said, listen, we have 20 students in this one program. Can we expand it to 60? Because we have such a large number of students who have declared pre-nursing. They're ready to get in your program. And she said, well, in order to expand to 60, I'm going to need 10 more faculty. And I was like, we just can't afford it. We don't have that budget. And so I was like, how do we creatively get past this? And so that's where we learned from the presentation here, an opportunity to expand. Then we had conversations with Ochsner Bayou region about their gaps, and then again, Terrebonne General Health System. So all of this in time frame is before COVID. So can you imagine now post-COVID, even much more of the shortage and the workforce gap need? But ideally, Danielle will talk a little bit about some of those problems, but I look at them as opportunities that came up to surface that I, who may have been an undergraduate at a predominantly college that was focused on healthcare, I was not a healthcare major, so I didn't understand sort of the problems that existed around some of the accrediting bodies, the State Board of Nursing, that created sort of barriers that Danielle said, we have to solve this together with all parties at the table.
Yes. So the nursing shortage, we all know, I mean, everybody in this room knows that there's a nursing shortage, right? You've been to the hospital, you've had to wait to be seen in the ER, you've gotten into the ER, you had to wait for a bed to go upstairs. They had beds, they just didn't have anybody to take care of you in that bed. You know, this is not new to us. This has been going on for years, even from when I was working in the hospitals. It's just not getting any better. It's not going to get any better because if you look at the numbers, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says by 2028, we're going to need 1.1 million new nurses. They're retiring. You know, nurses are retiring. They're getting burnt out quickly. It's difficult to work in a hospital. So they're getting burnt out. And like Chandler said, now that COVID, I didn't look it up, but I should have to see how many nurses we lost during COVID due to burnout. You know, they were working incredible hours and all of that. You know, the facilities are not even fully open right now. And it's not, in our area, we had the hurricane. They were closed down a little while. They came back open, but they're still not fully open. They're closing whole wings because they don't have nurses to take care of those patients. You know, you can't safely give a nurse 15 patients to take care of. You know, the maximum should be 5. Other issues we're having, or not issues, but problems, are nursing faculty. You know, we know that in order to help the hospitals and the facilities in the area, we need to give them more nurses. We can't do that without more nursing faculty. The state board sets limits on how many students we can have per faculty member. So we can't just increase and just keep giving more to our faculty that we have. Another little problem is it's hard to find nursing faculty. It's hard to find master's prepared nurses that want to leave their nurse practitioner roles and come to teach for half the pay. You know, so that's something else I'm just going to mention. We're actually addressing that with the State Board of Nursing right now. We're petitioning because we don't feel like to have an associate's degree that you should have to have a master's degree to teach it. If we can get those bachelor's prepared nurses in, we can teach our associate nursing program. So we're working on that. And in classroom space was another thing that we needed.
Yeah, so after we continued to listen to the partners, and then we brought the nursing and allied health team to the table to understand what the barriers and opportunities exist there, we quickly began to evaluate the current program, which we'll briefly discuss, identify who are these partners, because at that time, that was key for us to be able to understand who can be potential partners at the table. One of the things, we had a conversation with Michael shortly after the annual convening in 2019, and he said, collaboration is our theme, so you're going to need to think about which partners you want at the table. So we began to bring partners to the table, and I'll talk about those. We presented the data findings to many of the partners to talk about how can we collaborate, and then we determined the funding sources that we needed to help us get there. So we set those goals and took the action, and so we'll briefly talk about that. But one of the things when I began to pull data, I said, okay, if we're producing 20 associate prepared nurses, then maybe we don't have any others who are interested in the nursing program, so we may need to look at ramping up our marketing and interest into healthcare fields. But when we dug into the data, you'll see we have 363 students alone who had declared and were taking prerequisites to be in nursing. So they're in our doors ready to get into the program, but we can't accept them because of the limitations we sort of just discussed that are barriers for us to meet the demand for our Bayou Region healthcare providers. So totally, there's over 460 students today who have declared a pre-nursing or allied healthcare major at Fletcher, waiting to get in and to be trained. And so we began to put together some of the evaluation of the programs, talking about if we were to focus on 3 areas, the RN, the LPN, and the LPN to ASN program, as Danielle mentioned, what does it look like to expand? How can we go from 20 students to 80 students? What kind of classrooms, what kind of labs would be needed, what space, what faculty members would be needing, or the healthcare providers willing to give us the space, give us additional faculty, etc. So we started to build this plan together to talk about this is our current, this is our future, and how do we get there in terms of saying we're going to set ourselves this goal. We're going to start producing over 160 graduates in 5 years in these programs. So that's what we did, but ideally, that plan that I just went through high level, we put in front of the partners. We went back to the partners and said, we heard you. This is our data. This is our plan. How do we work together? And at the time, we obviously had a conversation with Bayou Community Foundation, which is our local regional Bayou community, our economic development groups, and with Michael as well, with Blue Cross and the Blue Cross team, and said, how do we look at the grant opportunity, the collective impact grant, as being a project for us to help us get additional dollars for the nursing faculty side? And then Danielle came to me and said, we can do that, but we're going to be training nurses outside in the lawn because our facilities was not large enough to accommodate that growth. We don't have enough equipment, we don't have enough lab space, etc. So I started to think about how can we take a public-private partnership model to the next level. At the time, we had dollars secured through the Act 360 funding with the state legislature that was there for community and technical colleges to expand, that we were going to build a nursing workforce facility. And I took that and I leveraged that facility by saying we're going to go out and write an economic development grant for $2 million to expand into the nursing area, and in partnership with the Act 360 as its match. And in the help with Congressman Graves' office, and I see his lovely wife here, they were able to walk us through to say, this is what you need to do to be able to get this grant secured. And these are those partners at the table as well. And so I went to Ochsner and Terrebonne General and I said, okay, you see our data, you know our data exists, we want to get there, we're setting ourselves this goal, but our facility is an issue. Also, not just facility, but clinical spaces is an issue. Faculty are an issue. There's all these gaps that still exist. And I said, I'm writing this $2 million grant. If I get it, I want each of you to match it with $1 million. And we got the grant, and so they had to match it with $1 million. So they brought in $2 million as well to the table as partners. And so ideally, the partnership, and we'll go through some of that budget shortly, but the partnership exists amongst all of these groups that are listed here today. And we even went to other partners, our four-year partner, Nichols State University, and said, join us in this collaborative effort because we know we have associate's degree nurses that are going to go over to bachelor's prepared nurses. And that partnership didn't quite flesh out the way that we thought we would see it to flesh out, because Nichols said, we aren't preparing bedside nurses per se, you guys are. We're preparing individuals to go to the master's level, or they're leaving us and going back into their home communities. And so we said, well, we have a need here. Our mission is answering the regional workforce, and so we're going to continue to push forward with this. And so just some of the goals, high level, obviously we broke it down by program. So to say our traditional day program, what does it look like for evening, weekend programs? What does it look like by the time we get from 2021 to 2025 in terms of training those students and those numbers? The current facility, what does our future proposed facility look like? And then the faculty, as I mentioned, Danielle said, you're going to need 10 more faculty for us to get there. And so in the grant specifically, though, as we talk about it supports our nursing faculty, we were able to expand the 3 ASN, LPN to ASN programs, hire 2 additional faculty members to accommodate, and increase that student by 20 per year. And then, of course, we're going to build that state-of-the-art facility, but the partnership's so much larger than that. I mean, the opportunity to be able to expand clinical space, get nurses who are working during the day to come teach for us on nights and weekends with those healthcare providers is huge to increase and meet the Bayou region shortage. But this is our budget. So at the end of the day, we're making a $10 million impact to be able to produce the future workforce around healthcare shortage. And so the state kicked in the 4.5. We raised 615 in capital, the 2.1 million EDA grant, the $1 million from Ochsner and Terrebonne General each, our College Enhancement Fund, and then the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation Nursing Faculty Expansion Partnership. So we are very much moving forward, and even despite a COVID and Hurricane Ida that definitely devastated our facilities, that nursing team did not stop. They trained during COVID, they trained during the hurricane, they came back immediately and trained on site and went out to the healthcare providers and helped them as well. So that is Danielle and her team that continues to lead the way to answer the calling, which is our mission, closing the workforce gap. And so our results from a collaboration we just went through, ideally at a high level, but those funders and those partners were key for us. And so I say, if you're thinking about opportunities to collaborate and write a collective impact grant or any grant, know that thinking creatively to leverage state, federal, local partners can be key for your project. And we're just here to solve those workforce gaps. That's our mission. So if you hear today that your organization can potentially partner with us on this project, we are open arms. That's what we do. We collaborate across the state with many groups, and we even collaborate with sister institutions. For example, we're solving a healthcare gap right now in Alexandria for the Central Louisiana Community Technical Colleges because they don't have a nursing program that those healthcare providers are needing to produce. So we answer the calling across the state. So thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Just go ahead and raise your hand. We'll come to you.
My question is, I know we all know in the room that there's a shortage of nurses. When you mentioned something that tweaked my interest, are you working for the pipeline? And when I say that, are you looking at your high schools with the IBC program and the pathway to become nurses?
Yes, absolutely. So we are funded through another funder who helps us specifically build programming in the high schools to get them excited about careers in healthcare, and we're also working to issue juniors and seniors basic industry-based certifications to then streamline into whether it's CNA, medical assistant, so on and so forth. And Danielle's looking to launch her first summer camp around healthcare.
That was part of my question, and the other part is you're servicing areas outside of your area. Do you do this virtually? Do you send faculty? What methodology are you using?
It's a mixture. So some coursework we're able to do virtually, and then we're working with that local healthcare provider and that nursing clinical instructor there to do the in-person training in terms of the labs and checkoffs and components.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight really quickly on the pipeline piece. It's so important. We've actually heard from the NELA nursing folks up north that now they're facing a pipeline bog in high school because they can't pass the credentials that they need to get into the nursing courses. So the pipeline issue is important. We're funding folks like Baton Rouge Youth Coalition, you all down in LSUE, to get more high school students prepared to enter the nursing profession.
Yeah, what I was going to say is part of, we've done a lot of the same steps at LSUE that our wonderful partners down at Fletcher have participated in through our expansions with healthcare partners. We've got donated space from hospitals. We have labs, nursing labs located within Ochsner Lafayette General. And then another piece of our grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation is to have a retention specialist, because what we know from COVID is that those students missed some of those critical courses, and there is a gap. We're seeing that skill gap definitely, and so having them fund these retention specialists, which starts this next fall semester, we're going to come back and show you all the data because we believe that's going to help us move the needle, because we were seeing some of those same bogs as they are in Northeast Louisiana. So truly this collaborative effort and how everybody is sharing this information, to me this is what the foundation is doing is critical and helping us really move that needle. We're also looking at more diversity, equity, and inclusion, and taking students in the high school setting and giving them apprenticeship opportunities. I know there's a high school here in Baton Rouge that's doing that as well, but that is critical to get them engaged and exposed. And then with the retention specialist, we can get them ready to get accepted. So kudos.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you talking, because Carrie and I spend a lot of time talking about this whole issue and partnership, and we feed off each other in those expansions, so thank you for sharing that.
I had a question about what high school students need. What are the gaps in preparation in order to enter nursing programs, and what can education, like enrichment programs, do to help high schools serve that need?
Well, Danielle might see it one way. I definitely see it another, and I think that the importance is we have the opportunity to go out and educate the population on what fields exist in healthcare and how you can potentially go into those fields if you have an interest, so all of that outreach component. But I'll tell you what we see, and Carrie talked a little bit about the retention component, is getting the student in the door. There's a lot of access issues, there's a lot of support issues for students that we serve, that they need the help to reduce those barriers so they can be successful in these programs. And so not just that, but soft skills as well is important so they are successful. And so our goal at the onset of coming into Fletcher is we have a team where we've moved to a case management model where our enrollment team works with them on a case management basis, where it is, okay, your barrier today is daycare, then let me get you set up. Your barrier today is a bus pass, let me get you that. Your barrier today is food insecurity, let me get you that. Those are the issues that stop a student from getting into the program and being successful.
Hi, I had a question in regard. I had a question in regards to the strategies you guys use to retain the nurses once you get them through your programs. Do some of the partners that you work with, are there time service commitments? Are there direct pipelines into those employers? Those types of things.
So I'll say that, and Danielle, feel free to chime in. I'll say this from two parts. One is our partners locally, the healthcare partners, all have opened up the opportunity to say, we want to give you the spots for training, and we're willing to do it any time of the day. You want a midnight to 6 a.m. nursing program? We're willing to do that too. So they are saying, whatever time you need, we're here to partner with you to fill that gap. And the other component is, we're so passionate about student success and access and students getting jobs that we literally have focused now to make sure that every student, when they leave us, has had a 100% job offer. We can't make them take it, but we have moved investments around to hire a director of job placement, and that's their sole role. So every student who walks across graduation has received a job offer from some entity or organization.
And then Chloe just wanted me to mention something. So I'm from the Rapides Foundation, and we currently have a funding opportunity that we are working through right now focused on K through 12 and improving the pipeline and healthcare. So we're doing that through high schools, post-secondary institutions, some community organizations. And we're currently in the early stages. It's going to the board in the next week or so for approving certain grantees that applied.
We don't have time for any more questions because we need a quick break. So if you do have one, please jot it down. And please join me again in thanking our friends from Fletcher.